In this lesson, I want to address a question that I received recently. In this lesson, I want to answer a question that I received recently via email, and it's a good question, and I think there's a lot of lessons to be gained from this. So I want to dive in here, and we'll talk about a few different things actually that are related to this same question. The question is, how can I play a shuffle without having to do this big stretch? Now, if we have a shuffle in the key of G, for instance, it would be a typical shuffle rhythm, and if we're at the 3rd fret playing in the key of G, I'm actually stretching from the 3rd fret all the way out to the 7th fret here. And that can be a fairly long stretch. Now, the person that wrote this question also mentioned that they have small hands. So, first of all, let me address that. If you do have smaller hands, things can be a little tougher at first, but if you're persistent, you can stretch. You will be able to eventually do this even with small hands. And there are a few things that come into play here. And I can cite several examples of guitar players with small hands that have been able to make it work. You can even look on the internet and you can find these young kids that are like virtuosos that are playing amazing classical pieces that are doing big stretches, and they certainly have small hands. So don't let the fact that you have small hands or hands that are on the smaller side, don't let that be something that hinders you from working to do what you want to do on the guitar, because if you persevere, you can do it. Now, one thing that you can do is you can always move up higher on the neck and you can play that same rhythm. So if I start on a C, now I'm only stretching from the 8th fret to the 12th fret. Now, that distance is a lot smaller than the distance from the 3rd fret up to the 7th fret. So if I start down here and practice this rhythm, then when I get comfortable, then I can start to move it down a fret at a time. And this is like a little stretching exercise. As I move down the fretboard, I'm going to have to stretch a little bit farther each and every time. So that's one thing that you need to keep in mind, is that you can always go higher on the neck and work your way down. Now, the other thing is I can play a shuffle in G starting here at the 10th fret using this form for a G. Another solution, again, the frets are closer together, but the sound may not be quite what you want way up here on the fretboard. It may be a little thin sounding up there because the notes are so high. So even though that is a solution, that may not be what you want to do. Now, the other thing that's important, one last thing here about this whole stretching idea, where you put your thumb is really important. And I don't know if I can get you to where you can see this or not. Maybe like that, if I do a contortionist act here. My thumb's really way down in the middle of the back of the neck, and that really helps your hand to be able to make these stretches. If I put my thumb up here where it's sticking out over the top, I can't even reach out here to the 12th fret, or barely. It makes it very difficult. Just put your hand in a bad position, so that thumb again needs to be down here in the middle of the back of the neck, and that will enable you to stretch further distances. So those are the technical aspects. Now, what can I do to make this shuffle down here a little easier? And interestingly enough, I was just having a conversation with a good friend of mine here in the Boulder, Colorado area, who is a great blues guitar player, and he has struggled with arthritis, and he had to make some changes in his playing in order to accommodate the fact that he actually wasn't able to do this stretch anymore. And so if you take this low G here and you move it up here an octave, so it's no longer on the 6th string, it's now up here on the 4th string at the 5th fret. So now I'm going from 3rd fret, 6th string, 5th fret on the 5th string, to 5th fret on the 5th string and 5th fret on the 4th string. So I'm still playing G and D, G, D. Now I'm playing D, G. So I've just taken the G up an octave. And now I can do that same shuffle rhythm. without having to do this big stretch. Now here what I'm doing, stretching out to the 7th fret from the 3rd fret, but here I'm only stretching from the 5th fret up to the 7th fret. So here would be the whole shuffle played with the stretches. Okay, so nice clunker there, huh? Okay, so that would be the shuffle played with the stretch. Now here's the same thing played without the stretch, moving the G up an octave on the G chord, the C up an octave for the C, and the D up an octave for the D chord. Alright, so again, it's a little bit, not quite as beefy, but don't forget, you're going to have the bass player. Try to do all the parts together here. So remember, if you got the bass player thumping out your low root notes for you, this shuffle, this easier version, if you will, is still going to sound pretty darn cool. So there you go. There's some thoughts for how you can increase your stretch, and also how you can simplify things. So the guitar is a complicated instrument. Sometimes you have to use your noggin a little bit and come up with some alternate fingering solutions. Don't be afraid to do that. The bottom line, in the end, we're trying to make some music. So whatever you need to do to make it sound good and be able to groove, that's what you really want to. That's what you want to strive for ultimately. So hope you enjoyed that lesson, and I'll see you the next time around.